Europe, alongside China, is a world leader in making electric cars. And as electric vehicles become more and more common, this is becoming one of the most important industry sectors of the future. And yet, Europe is at risk of losing that. Not only the factories, but the jobs and the technological edge that come with it. And not to China, Russia, or India, but to the United States. There are two big reasons for this. One is the high price of energy due to the energy crisis. It's making vehicle construction costs a lot more expensive. And the second reason is the US law named the Inflation Reduction Act. It gives a big tax break to electric vehicles that are made in North America and sold in the US. This, together with high energy prices in Europe, gives a strong push for companies to move their production from Europe and to the US, from where they can sell both on the US market and export back to the European Union. Here are the two perspectives. From the American side, it's their right, their market, their money. So even though Europe doesn't like it, it's fair. And at first, I fully agreed with this perspective. I thought Europe was being unreasonable. After doing a little bit of research, I think the European perspective also makes a lot of sense. This is how it goes. Look, directly subsidizing only North American electric vehicles is in practice the same thing as a tariff. You know, the thing we do when we want to start a trade war. It is almost specifically designed to target European factories and companies and get them to move to the United States, from where they could export back to Europe. And not only that, it is also taking advantage of the European energy crisis, a crisis that is in large part happening because of Europe's support for Ukraine. And there is one thing that I don't think gets talked about enough. European aid to Ukraine has come at a cost. People like to praise the US for being direct and not hesitating when it comes to supporting Ukraine, and that is great. But it's important to acknowledge that America and Russia don't really trade much, and the United States is not reliant on Russia in any shape or form. While on the other hand, Russia was one of Europe's main trading partners and their main supplier of gas, oil, and coal. So from Europe's perspective, the United States are taking advantage of them in times of crisis in order to take a crucial part of their industry, their jobs, and their technological edge. And at the same time, they're supposed to be allies. There are three options. Currently, America and the EU are negotiating over this, and some concessions have been made by Washington. So, by the looks of it, Europe might not do anything to counter this. They will probably take somewhat of a hit, but depending on the concessions, maybe it won't be too bad. The next option would be a trade war, putting tariffs on different goods, to which the Americans will probably do the same, and this can escalate. Overall, I don't think this will be a good thing, but the thing I really wanted to talk about is the possibility of a subsidized war. I did say trade war in the title, but I'm gonna talk about a subsidy war. Haha, I tricked you. Here's what we are talking about. There is a chance that Europe will, as a response, heavily subsidize their own electric vehicle manufacturing, green energy, and so on, even more than it is now. This will mean that production and exports will be a lot cheaper, to which the Americans might even go ahead and do more. This can create a situation where both sides are trying to do as much as they can to lower the price of producing electric vehicles and green energy. This probably won't be the best thing for both economies, but it might be the best thing for the world, because cheap electric vehicles and cheap green energy would significantly lower emissions, not only in North America and Europe, but all over the world. At that moment, we could have this very interesting situation where the European Union is subsidizing green energy and electric vehicles, the US is as well. And this is not the topic of the video, but China is doing the same thing. So we could have a situation where the three most powerful economic blocs are all trying to make green energy as cheap as possible. This could improve the fight against climate change significantly, which would mean less droughts, less famines, refugees, floods, all of that stuff. And it would improve the lives of hundreds of millions of people all around the world in other ways as well. If the EU and US go into an economic conflict, but the people of rural Congo get access to electricity for the first time because of cheap solar panels, well, that's a win in my book. These two are gonna be okay. Plus, cheap energy is crucial for food production, education, and infrastructure. And that's why this could be amazing. This could be one of the rare situations in humanity's history when an economic conflict led to a massive benefit for all of humanity. I hope you enjoyed learning something new. YouTube says you would like these two videos. If you're interested, you can check them out. Maybe you will learn something interesting. And if you're feeling great, well, you could subscribe to a small channel and make my day a little bit better.